Possible breakthrough, in fact, in talks to end the government shutdown. Last night, the Senate voted to move ahead with a bill to reopen and fund the government. 7 Democrats and 1 independent joined Republicans, exposing a wide gap with other Democrats who've been fighting to keep Obamacare subsidies for millions of Americans. We're joined now by one of the Democrats who broke ranks, that is Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. Senator, thank you very much for being here.
Nice to be with you.
This is a big morning here because no one wants the shutdown to continue, and we might be on our way out of it. At the same time, from the perspective of your party, the goals here were to show your voters you could stand up to President Trump and to guarantee that extension in health care subsidies. I look at this and I see you didn't achieve either, so people wonder, what was it all for?
Well, we did. We stood up to President Trump for 40 days, and let's remember why we're in this position. It's because President Trump and Republicans in the Senate and House refused to fund health care to keep costs affordable for millions of Americans. Now, we're going to be able to continue fighting on that issue because of the agreement that we struck with the Senate majority. But we're also going to end the suffering of millions of Americans, people who are not able to get their food assistance, federal employees who have been out of work without paychecks. Some have had to work with paychecks. They're going to be brought back. They're going to get their back pay. Contractors are going to get their back pay. Air traffic controllers are going to get paid.
Senator.
And we're going to live to fight another day. And that's what we need to keep people focused on.
Well,
it's not the Democrats who broke ranks who are the issue here. It's President Trump and the Republicans who have kept us from dealing with the costs of health care.
Well, Senator, those issues that you described when it comes to the shutdown, we've covered them. They are real. There's a lot of pain in the country right now, and people want out of this shutdown. But it was that fight for health care subsidies that led Democrats to drive the country into a shutdown. You had the leverage. Now you're out of the shutdown, or on a path anyway. And other Democrats are using words like this is pathetic. This is not keeping your word. They are very angry. I'm talking about other elected Democrats. What's your response to them?
Well, again, I think the focus should stay on the people who are responsible for where we are. And as I said in my statement last night, keeping the government shut down for another week or another month doesn't indicate that there would be any change in the outcome. All it would mean is that more Americans would suffer. We need to get this government back open. We need to get people paid. We need to get people air traffic moving again. We need to get people making sure that they can get their food, because unfortunately, this is the first shutdown where we saw Donald Trump refuse to provide the benefits to make sure that people could continue to eat. We need to keep the focus on them, not on continuing to fight a battle that we are going to be able to continue because of the vote.
Yeah, we all agree, Senator, that this has got to end. It's heartbreaking to see people, government workers waiting in line crying, saying, I'm a human being, I deserve to eat.
Right.
But what does this mean? What does this say to you that every year it seems like we're having this conversation? If it's not resolved, then the can is kicked down the road. Why is this so difficult, number one? And number two, why can't we come up with a way that Congress, you guys don't get paid until these people get paid? It seems to me if they had that kind of scenario, they would work this stuff out. I keep thinking, suppose we weren't paid here at CBS when we didn't do anything wrong, but the people making the decisions are still getting paid. I wrestle with this. It makes no sense when I see what is happening to the government workers in this country. So the first question, I said, why is this so difficult?
Well, what I hear most from my constituents is, why can't you just work together to address the problems facing this country? I think this bipartisan agreement gives us an opportunity, hopefully, to turn the page on that. But we do need a long-term way to address the fact that we should not be putting workers at risk, the people of this country at risk, when we have policy disagreements. And I think there's real interest in trying to do that. And I hope there's a real commitment. What we've heard from many of our Republican colleagues in the Senate is that they're willing to work on health care. Now we can hold them accountable. We're going to have a vote. We're going to see if they're really willing to work on it. And if they're not, the people of America can hold them accountable.
Senator, echoing Gail, I think a lot of Americans are going to be very happy as we head toward the holidays to see so many other Americans going back to work with this shutdown potentially over. But another American may be out of work. I'm talking about Chuck Schumer. A lot of people in your own party think he should be out of a job. Ro Khanna is one person who's saying that this morning. You worked with him to get to this moment of potential breakthrough. What do you make of the criticism? Do you think his days are numbered as leader?
Well, I think the House members who are critical should stay focused on what they can do in the House to ensure that we have a vote on health care and to make sure that we hold Speaker Johnson and President Trump, who are responsible, accountable for where we are. The fact is,
well, Senator,
what this agreement is going to do is it's going to force Speaker Johnson to bring the House back in. He's been out since the beginning of September. It's going to force him to come back in and to deal with health care and
Senator,
all kinds of other issues.
I apologize for I said Ro Khanna. I could have said Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, I could have named a whole bunch of people. There's people on the Senate side as well.
And as I said, they should stay focused on who's responsible for this problem. It's not Chuck Schumer. It's Speaker Johnson, it's President Trump, it's the Republicans who have refused to have a vote on health care. Now we have this opportunity, and we're going to take it, and the people of America will have a chance to see who's on their side.
Senator Shaheen, thank you very much for coming on this morning. Appreciate it.
Congressman, the deal is done in the Senate. You are unhappy. How unhappy are you and why?
Well, I'm unhappy because people's health care premiums are going to spike. Yesterday, when I was at Fort Worth Airport waiting 6 hours because of all the delays, someone came up running to me and he said, look, my father's insurance in Arizona, who's a taxi cab driver, is going to go up from $44 a month to $2,600 a month. That is outrageous. The Democrats should have fought for some help for that taxi driver and for 20 million people around America like that.
How much of this do you put at the feet of Charles Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate?
Most of it. I mean, he's the leader of the Senate. This deal would never have happened if he had not blessed it. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of other senators who are saying that they kept Senator Schumer in the loop the whole time. Look, I've worked with Senator Schumer. He did an incredible job on the CHIPS Act, on the IRA, on infrastructure, but it's time for him to be replaced. He is not meeting the moment. He's out of touch with where the party's base is.
Congressman, you know all shutdowns end, and if Republicans were adamant, as they said they were, that they were never going to negotiate over the health care part of this debate until the government was reopened, what other alternative was there?
Well, I don't think that they would have been intransigent on that. Michael Lawler, a Republican, was floating the possibility of a one-year extension to the Affordable Care Act tax credits. So we wanted a permanent tax credit extension, but could we have gotten 1 year or 6 months? I think so, especially when Donald Trump was reeling. He said that he lost the election because of the shutdown. He was putting pressure on them to get rid of the filibuster. Frankly, we should have at least had them get rid of the filibuster. That would have been a better option. But here we got nothing. And here's the point. Obviously, Senator Schumer entered this thinking that the Republicans were not going to be intransigent. Why else make the Affordable Care Act the purpose of the fight if you thought there was no chance of success?
You mentioned being at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Was a prolonged shutdown, meaning 45 days, 50 days, 55 days, going to be worth it, that damage and disruption to American travel over the Thanksgiving holidays, over this health care issue? You were willing to go that far?
I believe we could have gotten a deal before Thanksgiving that would have had some extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, or that would have forced Donald Trump to say, let's get rid of the filibuster. And then the Republicans could vote with 51 Republican senators in the House to do that. What I don't understand is why we are the ones who abandoned a lot of the working class folks who are going to see their premiums go up and didn't put up the fight. That's really what's frustrating. I do think this could have gotten resolved still before the Thanksgiving weekend.
Does it astonish you, Congressman, that after Tuesday's election results, when Democrats did feel emboldened for the first time in a calendar year, this is the result?
It disappoints me. It perplexes me. I guess I just don't understand why we have a group of people who are so out of touch with where our party's base is. They just came out in record numbers to give a win to Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill and Zoran Mamdani. They said, look, Democrats, we want you to stand up to this administration's lawlessness. We want you to stand up for health care. We want you to stand up for working families. We want you to show fight for people against a system that is not working. And we disappointed them. Now, can we recover? Yes. I think that the first step to recovering is to have generational change and new leadership. Someone referred to me as a backbencher, calling for the Senate Majority Leader to step down. And I don't take those things personally. Some people were coming saying, oh, Khanna is not a backbencher. But my point was, those of us in the back need to come to the front. It's time for a new generation of leadership for this party and this country.
On that point, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, do you believe he withstands this through this year and all of next year? There's not a scheduled election, as you know, Congressman, until after the midterms. Leadership election.
Look, he's going to make his own. He's going to make his own decision. I doubt I'm on his call list, but if he were to call, what I would say, Senator, we've worked together on the CHIPS Act. I've praised you many times when you have done things that have moved the country forward, but you're not meeting this moment. And I think it's time for someone else to lead in the Senate, and you should serve out the remainder of your term with dignity and working on the issues you care about. I think Speaker Pelosi provides a great model for a graceful way to cap out a career.
I've talked to some Democrats today, Congressman, who have heard from those in the institutional support base, the partisan support base for the Democratic Party. And there is conversation today about a donor boycott because there is so much fury over this deal. Do you believe that will manifest?
I don't know. I do know that the activist base is the one that it really wants a new leadership. I mean, obviously Chuck Schumer has a lot of donors and is a formidable fundraiser, and my guess is that the donor opinion is split. But we need to, as a party, stop listening so much to the donor base. Not that you can't listen to people who contribute, but we're overly focused on that, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're disconnected from grassroots politics.
Democratic California Congressman Ro Khanna, appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Takeout. Welcome to the Conversation Corner. 52 days ago, that was the last time the House was in session and cast a vote of any kind. Tonight, many House members are heading back to Washington per the order of House Speaker Mike Johnson. I'm joined now by California Democratic Congressman Jimmy Gomez. Congressman, your district's in L.A. I want to give my audience a little bit of your biography. You went to community college when you started your educational journey. You worked at a Subway and a Target. Before you got into state and federal politics, you were a union organizer and union political operative. With all that as a background, how does this shutdown deal, negotiated by 7 Senate Democrats and 1 Senate independent, land with you?
Well, I think it's one of the weakest deals I've ever seen in my life because they didn't get really anything in return. One of the things I've said from the beginning, since the beginning of this year, when everybody was deflated and wondering what the direction of the Democrats would be, I said you have a simple strategy: show up and fight, organize, 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 and then stall or stop the Republican agenda. And that's how we win the American people back, because they want to see us fighting for them, for the working class, fighting every single day. But you got to show up and fight. And this capitulation of these 7, 8 senators shows that they still don't understand the moment we're in. And the moment we're in is that we're fighting for the future of not only our country, but the future of working people. And they want to see us lay everything on the line. They don't care if you lose every single vote. They want to see you put up a fight. Nobody roots for a boxer that says no mas or a team that walks off the field. You got to put up a fight. They put up a fight for 52 days, and then they capitulated at the last minute and still didn't get anything. It doesn't make sense to me. They should have held out. My people, my district told us to hold on, not to capitulate, not to give up, and they appreciated the fight, because that's what this is about, because they know that Donald Trump and Republicans don't care about them.
So if I hear you correctly, Congressman, you would have been prepared, and you believe Democrats in Washington should have been prepared to fight, even if it meant a completely chaotic Thanksgiving travel season and the suspension of SNAP benefits, because the administration went to the Supreme Court to make sure lower court orders providing those benefits were not lived up to.
There's a thing I learned early on: you don't negotiate with legislative terrorists. And one of the things you have with Donald Trump and Republicans, they're definitely legislative terrorists. They don't care if they're going to shoot the hostages or the American people. They don't care what kind of pain they put them in. When it comes to the ACA subsidies increasing on top of the cost of living increasing, or the fact that they attacked SNAP over the last year. The American people know that the Republicans don't care about helping the working class. That one, they cut $200 billion out of SNAP in the one big beautiful bill. They canceled 92 million pounds of food that was already heading to food banks, that was already paid for, that would have fed 12 million people. The American people know that the Republicans keep selling them out for their donors and their largest supporters. So when we push back, they know why we're pushing back. They know that Democrats care about them. They care about the working people. So as long as we keep focused on what this is about, which is the average man or woman on the street, struggling to get by, people who want to see their kids do better, then we're going to win those fights. And here's the thing. Why now? Why after 52 days? We were still a few days out from Thanksgiving. So one of the things I want to say is that my constituents, I was at a food bank handing out food, and people were still telling me, keep up the fight.
This is working its way through the Senate. When it gets to the House later this week, do you expect it to pass, even though you'll be a no?
Not sure, because we don't really know where the Republicans are, right? You had Mike Lawler, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a bunch of them saying they should do something about the expiring ACA subsidies that were increasing the cost of health insurance in their own districts. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I suspect Donald Trump will twist some arms and make sure that the Republicans get on board. But here's the thing. Those ACA subsidies expiring disproportionately impact states, red states that never expanded Medicaid. So they're going to feel it even more. So I think this is bad news for them, even if they are able to pass the CR to get the government open.
I've heard several Democrats tell me today, Congressman, I'd like your opinion of this. We had to end this at one point or another. We elevated the issue of health care. That's a net benefit for us. No one's going to remember about who won or lost this shutdown 3 months from now. We need to move on.
Well, I think one of the things we did do was bring attention to these ACA subsidies. When I say show up and fight, organize, install the Republican agenda, it's to bring the attention of the American people to what's going on in Washington. If not, things happen in the dead of the night, and then Republicans try to blame Democrats. So this fight did bring attention to the fact that the ACA subsidies are expiring, their cost of living is going to go up, that Republicans are using SNAP against them, and Mike Johnson is delaying the swearing in of Alita Grajava to prevent her signing the discharge petition to bring out the Epstein files. So one of the things it did do was bring attention. You know, in the end, who knows? I'm not in the room with the senators, but I would have been fighting every step of the way if I was in those rooms to get the Republicans to come to our side, to get them to cave. But we will never know what would happen if this would have lasted maybe a few more days. So nobody can really truly say that this is what had to happen and this is when the time it had to happen. They could have still played it out a few more days.
Congressman Jimmy Gomez, Democrat, Los Angeles. Appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Of course.
Many in the Democratic caucus are angry at what they see as a capitulation by the party.
Very disappointed. I am disappointed that 8 people made a very profound decision for the entire caucus.
Vermont's Bernie Sanders said the Republican offer to hold a vote on those health care tax credits next month was not a good enough reason to cave.
You are going to get a vote on extending the ACA subsidies. Does that mean anything to you?
No, that vote is... it's a meaningless vote because even if it got 100 votes in the Senate, It's not going to go anywhere in the House, so the president certainly would not sign it.
Now, all of this will have to go through the House of Representatives before the government reopens. They are likely to come back into session on Wednesday after 7 weeks away. House Speaker Mike Johnson has pledged swift passage, but notably, Maurice and John, he has not committed to a vote on health care.
But we're going to begin this hour with another big step toward ending the government shutdown after the Senate passed a spending deal last evening. It now heads to the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson is urging members to return to the Capitol for the first time in weeks to vote. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, meanwhile, is among the Democrats who broke ranks to make this agreement with Republicans, and he just happens to be releasing a new memoir today. We spoke to him about the deal. You've been voting with Republicans to reopen the government. Now some of your fellow Democrats have decided to join you, and we're on a path to reopening. What do you think changed the minds of your colleagues to make them see things the way you've been seeing them?
I think collectively within the caucus, they realized this has to end. And now the kinds of mass chaos now that we've been facing. And, you know, I've been one of the very few that have been voting consistently from the beginning that it's always wrong to shut our government down. And now here we are 40 days into it. Now, how much farther can it go? How long can it go? And now you have 42 million Americans on SNAP, and people haven't been paid in 40 days, and that's growing. And now our air traffic system across the country now is under significant stress. In Philadelphia, you know, 18 out of 22 air traffic controllers didn't show up in a morning. And it's like things now has to end. And I think enough people collectively agreed we would find 8 people overall to do that, and we needed 5 more, and that's exactly what happened last night.
But the key demand was about the Affordable Care Act. You know, some people call it Obamacare. What will happen with that now under this situation that you all are proposing? What happens to it?
What I'm hopeful is that we are going to create those kinds of extensions, but we have to negotiate with the Republicans because America decided to put us in the minority. You know, obviously Trump is in the White House, and they also have the majority in the House. That's the essence of democracy, to find a way forward, because our parties have different priorities, and that's why I've always refused to put our government in the middle of all of it, because millions and millions of American lives will be impacted that way. 2 things must be true: that I want to make health care more affordable for Obamacare, but I also think that our government should never be held as a hostage, whether it's a Republican or whether it's a Democrat. It's always wrong.